Hey, welcome back. I am your host, Helen.
And I'm MT. Today's episode is a perfect episode for releasing this past year and inviting in the new year. What we're going to be talking about: manifestation, releasing 2024, yay for a lot of people, vision boards, how to invite 2025, and how to stay connected to your desires, and much more.
But before we get to our beautiful guest today, Lee Marie Jacobs, we're just going to have a quick message from our sponsor. Hey, it's Helen, and I am so excited to tell you about our new sponsor, Back to Earth Skin. Now, I love skincare, and I have tried everything out there, from the high-end and then to the drugstore brands. But that all changed about a year and a half ago when I discovered Back to Earth Skin. Since then, I have been completely hooked. Back to Earth Skin is setting a whole new standard for natural skincare. They blend the best ingredients nature has to offer with a commitment to sustainability. So it's a win for your skin and for the planet. Their products are 100% natural, vegan, cruelty-free, and I can honestly say that my skin has never looked better. And what really makes Back to Earth Skin incredible is that they have this trademarked mineral microbiome clay. This rare natural clay is packed with over 40 minerals like magnesium, potassium, calcium, and zinc, minerals that are known to boost your skin health and leave your skin feeling hydrated and refreshed. So if you're ready to try skincare that's natural, affordable, effective, and kind to the earth, head to backtoearthskin.com. You get 15% off your first order, but make sure to use the code HTMT when you order, because that way you will receive 15% off your second order. Links to Back to Earth Skin are in the description of the podcast, and when you start to use this incredible product, your skin and the planet will thank you. Now, back to the show. All right, we're back. So, Lee, welcome, first of all, to the Helen and MT podcast.
Thank you so much. It's like so homey and cozy being here. So I'm so
Thank you. And I have to thank you for starting my day this morning, because at 5:45, I listened to one of your podcasts, and then at 7:05, I listened to another one. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
So maybe before we get started, maybe you could just let our listeners know a little bit about you and what it is that you do.
Yeah. So I'm Lee, and I think I've had so many chapters that it's sort of hard to stamp a label on it, but I've always really been, I would say, a spiritual mentor at my core, sort of disguised in different industries. I worked in corporate, had my own business, published a few books. But through it all, I feel like that's just an opportunity for me to help women, mentor them on their spiritual path. And just, we're all looking to embody our true authentic self. And I think that's really my work. I just love doing it through whatever industry that I'm working in. But that's been the consistency for me. I'm also a mom, and just passionate about movement and health, up to highest health, and just really seeing what you're made of, right? Little by little, unleashing more of that authentic soul light that we all carry, but oftentimes it gets diminished or crushed or suppressed in this world. And as we mature and age, I think we just get more fierce about really discovering why we're here, what our purpose is, and we start asking the right questions. And so that's really my work.
It's interesting you said that, because one of the things that stood out to me this morning, and I came home and I ran in the house and I said to my partners, like, this is why, because I found that in the last few years, I've been really needing, going to bed early, minimizing alcohol, eating really healthy. And because of that, my world has opened up spiritually and career-wise. And you nailed it in your podcast. You said before we can get to the point where we want to go, we need to get clean inside.
Mhm.
And then that was like a big aha, like I knew it.
There's something really momentous happening right now that I've never seen before, where people are they're at a crossroads like they've never been before. And there is this hunger to have more depth in their life. They're almost exhausted from the superficialness of living. And they're asking, like, what the F am I here for?
Mm,
It's like, let's get to real business.
mhm.
And this is happening. People aren't languaging it like that. But you're seeing it with so many women with autoimmune, adrenal fatigue, because our auric fields, the physical body is just a tiny piece of who we are. But what's happened is a lot of us have gotten off path with embodying our integrity.
What does that mean? Can you explain that a little bit more?
So I think for me, as an example, health, family, and freedom would be my three biggest values. But you can go a long way in life being a little off kilter, like every time you say yes to something that doesn't feel true to you,
Mm,
or you surround yourself with relationships that are too superficial and they're not unconditionally loving. There's little things we do, we negotiate our integrity. And we can do that for so long until we wake up one day and we feel off would be just, there's not a word I can find.
mm,
Feel like you're living a lie.
Yeah.
And it's not
Yeah.
one big thing. It's all the little times we negotiated our values or our integrity. Like if health is really our biggest value, but we're workaholics and we say yes to like I worked in corporate, I did it for a long time, ate muffins because I didn't have time to go get a green juice.
I love
But at
muffins.
one
mm.
point I woke up and I think I was about 27 and I was like, I'm living a lie because what I'm showing to the world is not my authentic self. It's a facade to fit in.
Mm.
Mm.
And so our bodies now are not allowing us to live a lie in any dimension of our life. And if we're listening, we're looking at our physical symptoms as spiritual doors that are opening and spiritual messages to say, okay, the clock is ticking now. We could get away with it before, but there is a time right now. And it's not from a place of fear or pressure, but it's like you don't have time to mess around anymore.
Mm.
If you are here to help humanity move forward and heal humanity, you can't waste your time with things that don't matter.
Hmm.
You can't, live superficial because it's only going to keep the world in dysfunction. We are fractured right now on this planet.
Yes.
It's
That's
completely
Absolutely.
true.
fractured. And if we want to be the change like everybody puts on their Instagram, it
Uh,
starts with us aligning with our integrity. That's
Yeah.
number one. And we must embody our values now. We can't go talk
Yeah.
that we're healthy and I'm going to a yoga class. And it's not about perfection, but it's not about teaching it now. It's about embodying it. And
Powerful.
this is the path of every choice matters now. Every
Yeah.
tiny decision we make throughout the day matters. And I used to be a lot more, I guess, nice about how I say it, whereas now I'm trying to tell women, you don't have time to mess around anymore
Yeah.
because
Mm.
physical bodies are breaking down everywhere.
So,
It's like now is the time. And this time right now, December 2024 is so monumental that I think if anyone's listening to whoever's listening to
yeah.
this is such a monumental spiritual time. I don't even have language for how important it is to get clear on your 2025.
So there's so many questions
I know.
that I have to ask you.
Yeah.
Um,
I
so before we get to the 2024, why this time is really important, um, I find, and I don't know if you find this, MT, but I find sometimes when I feel like all of a sudden things are like, oh, it's happening. Like things start to fall into place and I can feel this excitement and it's almost like you're starting to rise and your
Mm.
dreams are starting to come into fruition. all of a sudden you just get whacked. Like all of a sudden, like something gets thrown at you. So I had, joining forces with MT doing this podcast has been so incredible. And it's opened up so much. We're just loving it. And then a few events happened that almost like knocked me down. And they were like attacks, and then my dog passed away and other things. And is this a common thing that when as we
Mm.
rise, like all of a sudden things, I don't want to say get thrown at us. I don't believe that the universe tests us, but I just find it like all of a sudden I was like, "What?" Like it
Yeah.
shook me.
Yeah, I see that, and that comes, and I love your perspective on that, Lee. But for me, is I think you are where you need to be. So I think you're thinking like, wow, I'm at a great point. But maybe I find that we're not as, once we get to that high point, it's like we get carried away with that feeling and forget to step back and say, okay, things are great, but I still need to do some work.
Yeah, but I don't think I was like just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
going,
it's a
"Oh,"
good point.
I'm like I didn't feel like I was like lying on a beach going, "I don't
I
have to do
wish.
anything
Yeah,
anymore."
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because
But what do you think about that?
Well, I think in these times, my answer is different today than it would have been a year ago.
Okay.
But what I see just from my own perspective is that the empaths and the sensitives are being crushed into fine wine right now.
Mm.
Most empaths I know have been tested to a level that over the last few years that you can't even make it up. Like the things are so challenging and there is such a up and down. And I think it's for two reasons. Number one is because the heart leading women and men as well, but the heart leading individuals and empaths and sensitives right now, their heart is so powerful and that is their engine, but their field often is weaker. So they are more prone to heartbreak and they're just walking hearts a lot of times, but the field is not strong enough to hold fortitude. So I think a lot of these experiences are to strengthen the field so that higher mind and heart are now a team. The field is so strong. And I think we need experiences that almost knock us over to be able to develop that fortitude. The other
Mm.
thing that I think is one of the reasons this is happening is because we are being called to completely lead our life, not from our senses, but from our interior castle. So the world, becoming the observer, we read about that, but to actually practice it, we can't get there without those really difficult times where we still see what's going on, but we're not as emotionally triggered by the devastation or the betrayal. So the last 2 years for me have been monumental in terms of like learning how to deal with difficulty and betrayal but I bring grace into it and I understand the higher symbolic meaning of it. I am learning how to become the observer and not my emotions. There's healthy detachment, if that is an
Mhm.
appropriate word. There's one of my mentors says like detached compassion. So I'm seeing it almost from a higher plane of like, oh my gosh, like shit's hitting the fan everywhere or things are falling apart
Right.
everywhere. I see this, but I get it. I get the memo. It's because we no longer can live with the outside navigating our day to day behaviors. Our personality is almost starting to take a back seat to our spiritual leader within. And I don't think we
yeah.
can get to that level of excellence without getting a little crushed into fine wine.
Mm.
So with Helen, then, when one situation and after another, we're at a point, it gets introduced, at a high point in her life. What can she do, or what can she do to say, okay, make this into a positive? How do I strengthen my wall or my force?
Again, in your case, Helen, because you are, because I know you better, a little bit better, you are such a heart centered leader in this world, and you are just being in your presence. People just feel healed around you.
Hmm.
I think it is activating your next chapter of activating some archetype within you that is meant to heal, literally heal the world. And I think there is something in you and some archetype that is ready to now expand out in the world, even though you've already done it, but to the next level. And I believe these experiences are fine tuning you for something really big.
Hmm.
But you wouldn't be able to do it with that healthy, detached compassion if you don't go through that first in your own
Yeah.
experience.
Yes.
It's almost like you have to go through this.
Yeah.
Like that was my experience, a few years ago. I went through, a really difficult time, but that difficult time opened up my door to share, you know, spirituality, to be strong with who I am, to live cleaner and dial into
Yeah.
this being a priority. Yeah. So you almost have to go through those
Yeah.
experiences or else,
But I think it's like what you're saying, Lee, and also MT, like when you went through it, it's like it's that detachment. It's like
hmm
it's happening, but don't attach to it.
It doesn't rule your day.
No, and I think in ways I was able to do that, and then I think in ways, and I don't know if you had this or both of you had this, where you kind of sometimes go back into that old patterning of thinking. And then it's like, "No, I'm not gonna go there." Like,
yeah.
where something that maybe would devastate you, and then you're like, well, like, for example, my our dog passing, he was he was like my shadow, and it's been heartbreaking, it's been sad, but it hasn't devastated me. And where I see where it has for my boys a bit more, but I am able to just to recognize like, well, that's life and just cherish the beauty that we had with him
Yeah.
and not sort of going into that old pattern of letting it take me down, if that makes sense?
Yeah. And I think you're being prepared for your next chapter of holding space for an even larger group of
Mhm.
people. And I think if we don't develop a strength, it's not about protecting the heart, but a strength around the heart chakra that
Mm,
keeps us strong.
the field.
The
Yeah.
field must be so strong now for the leaders in the world.
It's funny when you said that it's been hard on your boys. And the fact that you commented that you you're able to detach yourself
Mhm.
from that. I found in my own experiences, I had to attach myself to the pain, and it actually did consume my days in order to get to where I wanted to be the best version of myself. And I realized that the pain of any loss that I had wasn't really the root of my issue or pain. It was something else that I found out that I dug out.
Mhm.
So when we think it's one thing, it's actually goes
Another thing.
deeper.
Yeah.
And I couldn't detach myself. It consumed my days. It was my full-time job for like a year.
Hmm.
But you're saying to detach yourself.
Well, I think it's you do connect with the emotional body and you give yourself permission to feel the feeling. It has to pass process. You have to process those emotions, but I think you just process it with you don't process it with the intellect. You process it with the higher mind, the spiritual mind. And so there is, even though it's like you see yourself having a meltdown or being in grief or bawling your eyes out for a year, it's
Yeah.
like you're watching yourself. You're giving
Hmm.
yourself permission to go through it.
Yes,
But
exactly.
there's
Yeah.
that higher mind that is very divine that is watching it's hard to explain, but there's a big difference of being in it, with the intellect and then
Yes.
graduating to a higher mind connection where it's like, I see, it's almost like you're mothering yourself.
Yep.
So how
Yeah.
do you go back to what MT asked earlier? How do you go back to how do we strengthen that field?
So that is what's happening right now for the the those that have said yes to whatever word they want to say, higher consciousness or
Mhm.
ascension, whatever we want, self-actualization, it does go hand in hand with the evolution of planetary consciousness. So the planet is moving into a new era. So we don't have an option. You either stay rigid and stay the same, but that will fracture at some point. Or you're like, okay, well, the planet is ascending into a new era and I'm being called up. There's really nothing we can do about it. There's just some people are trying to keep things the same, but it's taking so much more energy to do that than 5 years ago that relationships are breaking down, bodies are breaking down, crazy experiences are happening that you don't even know. So trying to hold on to the same or the old, you can't do it.
Right.
So a lot of people have willingly said, I surrender. Like, I'm moving with the planet. And what we're being called up, when I say being called up, what's happening right now is we're graduating to the intellect is not in charge anymore.
Mm.
The intellect is a tool, but the higher mind is now reigning over our being. Higher mind connects directly to heart. That is the divine mind. Um, there's different words for it, but we must have that as the captain of our ship now, not the intellect.
Okay.
So in order to do that, graduation means we need more quiet, more
Mhm.
solitude, more meditation, more prayer, more
Mhm.
yoga. uh, our circle of influence might become smaller. We need more simplicity. Like multitasking is now harmful to the field.
Oh.
Wow. I think I'm falling right into that. Like, it's just
Yeah.
everything that you're saying is like,
And even we may not be
yeah.
introverted, but we still are feeling this need to have, because as we graduate, right, it's so pivotal. I can't even find a word. It is so huge what's happening right now. We just are all experiencing it, and we kind of are starting to ask ourselves, like, I'm not a hermit. Why do I need to like have so much quiet time? Or
Yeah.
I'm finding that with myself. I find that I need it more and
need
more.
it more. And to graduate to this next level of embodying our highest self, our authentic, why we're here. Like, now we're being activated to calling. Like, before it was like, yes, what I did was good. My intellect did a good job on the planet, right? Now it's,
Mhm.
why am I here, is being activated. And that little graduation hill that we're climbing, you can't be around a lot of people to do that. So if somebody is very extroverted and is around people all day, they will just need to do a really good job of scheduling. There are major shifts that I've made, and it's not for everybody, but for
Yeah.
me,
You went to a remote cabin with your family.
yes. But yeah, like obviously my husband and I are on the same page. Like, we tend to do, I don't know, go against what seems normal.
Yeah.
We seem to always do that. But if we want to unleash our highest self right now, we won't be able to do that with a lot of physical distractions around us. It's just
Yeah.
Okay.
going to be
So
tough.
how do we then moving into 2025, how do we release, because not everything was horrible about
Yeah.
2024, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of beautiful things and awareness, and so how do we release, and maybe release isn't even the right term, but how do we sort of, I always feel that there is a release with it when this time of year. I feel like, for me personally, I don't know what you both feel, but I feel that there's that part of me is like, I need to release to invite
Yes,
in the new
for
year.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe for the listeners, I can just give a few little things and whatever
Sure. That'd be
resonates with
Lovely.
great.
them, they can
Yeah.
Please.
do. The one thing I think is to have deep gratitude to, most people I work with have had, the last 2 years have been the most difficult of their whole life.
Yeah.
It was on purpose and divinely timed. It's because those are the ones that are here for great work in the years ahead. So they had to develop the strength and fortitude to now be able to hold space for a larger group of people without crumbling or without getting too emotional that they're in, because empaths tend to get in the person's field. Like if someone's going through hardship, the empath will like jump into their field and feel their feelings. We need to have a strength where we can hold anchor for people. We need to be able to keep anchored and go through difficulty. And I think that the last few years have been on purpose, specifically timed to fine tune and strengthen that field for the very open heart people, because those are the leaders of the next decade. Those are the leaders of the next decade. So it's this like almost this prayer of gratitude of not the challenge, because of course that's not fun, but of I can see clearly the purpose of all of those, because a lot of people need like multiple things to get the lesson.
Well, and I think, it's being able to look at, I don't want to use the word negative or something that's you came into your life that you don't want there. Look at it and think, okay, how can I grow from this? This is another little drop, like you, to get to my next level or to strengthen myself.
And how do you get to embody unconditional love and compassion if you haven't been stripped?
Exactly.
You can't.
Yeah.
You can't. And it's like it's almost like the saint archetype in empaths is being activated. And for them to, we might be like, well, I'm not a saint, but it's those that understand that love is the answer, and they mean it. The ones that embody love are now going to have to be the mothers of the planet, because so many people are going to need help, and they need to get stripped to feel the level of unconditional love and compassion that people now need. There's no more time for superficial, like sometimes I see I see the way humanity rolls, and especially women my age, and I'm like, people need love to such a level that we don't have time to gossip about people or judge people, or it's so a waste of an incarnation.
So Lee, you mentioned you're going to some of the steps, right? That Helen asked about. So we have some things that we can kind of leave with, like
Gratitude.
Gratitude is number one.
Yeah. Right now, and this is like right now. So again, cleansing the last year, we can cleansing the body, clearing the field. That's a must for December. So whatever you need to do, detox baths, and not just like a little bit of salt, like I'm talking bags of salt. And sometimes if you're feeling emotionally heavy, you might need a couple a day. So soul care for this month must take precedent. So cleansing, like for me, it would be colonics, juice cleanses, moving the body so much, yoga. I always recommend to my clients that they get a chi machine, even wherever. They're not that expensive, but I have found that to be one of the most helpful ways to reharmonize the chakra system. I don't know why it works so well, but it's like an instant chakra aligner.
Okay.
Acupuncture can be also very helpful. So again, these are physical body things we can do. The body must be cleansed of the last couple years. The emotional body is where women are struggling right now. And this is why a lot of women are like, but I eat good and I work out, but I'm gaining weight, or I can't shed weight the way I used to. It's because the emotional body is burdened. It is carrying so much fear, grief, shame, the energy of the world. The emotional body of women right now is where the healing must happen.
And how do we let that go? Do we do that like through journaling and meditation?
It's different for everybody, but I would say find what your most appropriate vessel is. Don't do too many. For a lot of women, I find prayer or meditation seems to be their go-to breath work.
Yeah.
I just worked with a client this morning, and she was like, well, what technique should I use? And I intuitively said to her, your emotional body is feeling heavy. And for people listening that can relate to that, the exhale of the breath work is the importance. For some people
Yeah.
that are depleted and fragile, like I have friends who have lost a ton of weight because their adrenals are broken.
Yeah.
For them, the inhale is the focus. The breath of life
Mhm.
Okay.
must be the
Interesting.
focus.
So I know. So let me ask you this.
Mhm.
So what do you think is so for me,
Yeah.
my the work that I did and do for my emotional strength is prayer and journaling. What about you?
I would say the same. Like, I think my meditation practice and journaling, and then nature. Like, I'm
Yeah.
walking. I haven't told you the full story, but
Like
even
Coyote,
the
yeah.
other day, I was walking, and this huge uh, koi wolf was a foot away from us, me and our other little dog, and, there's something about nature, and there's something about that wolf, that coy wolf, when it looked at me, like, I still haven't figured it out yet, but there was something there, but I'm finding that I'm really drawn to nature more, like going
Mhm.
down to the lake and walking, and I feel like
Mhm.
and with that, I talk to myself a
Yeah.
lot.
So those are yours, yeah.
Those are mine,
What about
yeah.
you, Lee? What are
Yeah,
your
so I think for me it would be again, we live in the forest. So
Yeah.
we
Oh,
are
right.
always nature for me is like an instant cleanse.
Yeah.
It doesn't take long, honestly, like a couple days in nature and it's like your field is
Yeah.
clear. But I
Yes.
would say nature, yoga, um, and for me, like I do a ton of baths, like
Mhm.
because again, I'm doing it, yes, for the physical body, but I'm such an empath that it is my emotional body
Yeah,
cleanser.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then juicing and colonics. That's kind of my
Okay.
little thing, my go-to.
So in you do these little practices to we use the word release 2024. Is that can you do those as well to bring in 2025? Like use the
Yeah,
same
100%. I think
Yeah.
it's going to get more, it's going to take up more of your priority of your
Yeah.
day. Next year is right now, it's like get clear, figure out why you're here,
Mm.
and create your
Am I understanding?
2025. And we say this every year, but for those listening, it is so deeply, I can't emphasize this enough. Right now, 2025 is such a big year for people that are being activated into their calling that you can't wait until January to figure out what you're going to create in 2025. It is right now.
Mm.
It's like, but you need to have the space. If you're overloaded with a life that isn't feeling true, you have no space in your life, you have no time, you hate your job, or you're not happy. This month is about clearing to make the space because if your cup is full, nothing great can come in.
But how do we create that space to invite strong 2025 spiritually and emotionally and physically as women in business where things have to get done, right? And we have, podcasts to finalize and, my business, I have, deadlines to meet. Like, and we are busy. But you say slow down, but you kind of have to wrap up all those things before the end of the year.
Well, I would say if they all, do you want to bring them all into 2025? Do they feel
Mm.
deeply true to your soul? All of those activities.
That's
Hmm.
a good question. That's a
Right.
good yeah.
Yeah.
And then and maybe taking that time to think and then what is it
Yeah.
that you're carrying that you're like, "This feels like a burden?" Like the podcast, it's a lot of work, but it lights us up,
It's amazing. I love it.
right? So what is it that you're carrying that's a burden that maybe you're like, "This
Yeah.
is maybe something I need to look at
Or
releasing?" Would that
or
be right,
or
Lee?
or pass on to someone else on the team and use that energy and time to myself and working on things with the podcast that I want to do more of. So yeah, it's re
Well, and also we have to look at most of what we do is not part of our highest path.
yeah.
We just are addicted to filling space.
Huh.
Yeah.
I gotta write that down. Can you say that again? The higher path part? Like
What did I say?
you said,
We'll hear it on the
not
podcast.
everyone is
Well, most people are spending most of their day doing things and activities that aren't aligned with their highest path and highest self. We're conditioned to be addicted to filling space. So
yeah.
here's the insanity of it is we're being called to go within now, higher mind. We're being called to unleash our most authentic self, our highest purpose.
Love that.
A lot is going to have to go.
Yeah.
For the
Yeah.
ones who are committed, it's not an easy path. But if you're committed to really making a difference in the world for the next 10 years, most of what you're doing right now is not important. It's trivial.
Ah,
Mm.
You have to figure out the few activities
yeah.
that are so connected to your soul
Yeah.
that you want to bring those into 2025. Do them more and spend more time doing practices that connect higher mind to heart. Most of my day is space.
Mm.
I say no most of the time. Like, it's everything I commit to, there is a contemplation before I commit. Because I don't want to just do something because I'm used to saying yes, or because it makes me look important, you know? It's like, no, it's a soul yes now.
And I think I'm putting that to practice a bit more. I'm really stopping and thinking, okay, can I do this? I want to, but is it going to put me to the over the edge of exhaustion or too much?
And asking really deep questions like, if I only have a week left,
Would I want to do
am I
this?
leaving a legacy with how I'm living right now?
Yeah.
Or am I just like
On autopilot.
stamping the clock?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. It's like thinking like it's in that Tibetan book of living and dying where it's thinking about what are the four most important things when you leave this
Yeah.
world, right? So it's like just taking that time to like what is important to me and how much time is spent on what is important to
Yeah.
you and how much time is spent on stuff that you're just like, oh, I got to do this, rushing around and going.
Be at our most powerful for
Yeah.
2025. It's about choosing a few things that we do with excellence. So next year
Okay.
is about excellence.
Mm.
It's about embodying, it's about being authentic, and it's about unleashing unconditional love. So bringing back excellence means we must do less things really well.
So, and
Yeah.
then keywords, I know that I forget what you call them. Your power words, is that what they are?
Oh, the
I remember.
keywords for next year?
Yeah.
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 Right.
Yeah. I think
I'm
for me, like grace,
Yeah.
embodiment, and
Yeah.
right.
integrity would be my words for next year. So
Mm.
Okay.
anyone who's listening, you could select 3 words that, like, excellence. A lot of us lost our excellence over the last 5 years because it's not our fault. Like, it was
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
hard. And I know for me, I lost excellence and then I don't feel like myself.
Okay.
This is a good question to ask our listeners when they want to comment is like pick your 3 key words for
Yeah.
2025.
Yeah.
And then
I
if
like
there's
that.
one other exercise that I would highly recommend doing before the holidays is a letter detailing your year and describing your day 1 year from today.
Oh,
Mm.
So writing out a descriptive, like in detail of every day, how you're living, who you're spending your time with, like with vivid color, all the little details of what you are embodying and what your day looks like a year from today, so that you can create that now, not wait until January.
I
Okay.
do that every morning. I actually write out what I want my day to look like in my week. And then I go back, like tomorrow, I'll go back to today and see if I did that and have a word that I use if I did. Yeah, I
So,
do
like,
it.
taking the
Mm.
time to do
Yeah.
those exercises is where the
Self love,
priority should be.
self
Okay.
care.
Do you have any workshops or anything that's coming up that if people want to go a little bit deeper that you're offering at this time or no?
Yeah, I'm actually I did this a few years ago, New Year's Day mastermind for
Oh,
2025 to help people to live their most powerful, embodied 2025. So
Mhm.
I'm going to run that again this New Year's Day in the afternoon.
Okay.
And yeah, people can just go to, I guess, my website, leemariejacobs.com, or they could just reach out to me on Instagram.
love
Okay.
that.
So we'll put all of that in the
Yeah.
show notes so people can do that. Just as we start to close this off, is there anything that you want to leave our listeners with?
I think my message to everybody is now is the time to really step into your power and to know how great you are, and that the world really needs you to be courageous enough to be so deeply authentic and to just not be afraid to show your true beautiful self. That
Oh,
is
I got
where our
tears.
power
I
is.
That's
know. That's
powerful.
powerful. And you know what? It's powerful in the beauty and the simplicity
It is.
and the grace of how you said that. It's so powerful. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you. And maybe we could even have you back in the show in the new year because I find that sometimes we get very sort of strong in
Yeah.
the new year and then March, April, we start to sort of waver a little bit, you know?
For sure.
But maybe we could have you back in and just sort of how to stay connected and how to stay on our path and any tools that you could share with us for that.
I would love to.
Thank
Anytime.
you.
Thank you, you beautiful mermaid.
Oh, you're wonderful. Oh my God, it was
I
a
love
day
you
all about
both.
Lee. My
Yeah,
morning and
I'm
my afternoon.
laughing because MT's taking
Oh
notes and
yeah,
I'm thinking like, you're going to be able to listen to this.
I know, but this.
But-
So my way of putting practice to full potential is writing things down.
yeah, yeah.
So I just did a master class with you right now.
Do you guys
Yeah.
have, is there 1 minute just for a manifesting story?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I just the other day I was like, I need a new purse, but I want it to exude beauty. Not about being frivolous, but like, for me, I'm a Virgo and beautiful things are really important. But I'm also a minimalist. So I don't it's not a daily practice for me to go shopping, but I was like, I need to start my year with the most beautiful purse. And I was looking at mine like, I just don't love this. I don't love it. So, but then there's so much going on and it's such a season of cleansing. Like I gave away all my clothes to a consignment boutique that's opening up, all of my shoes. And I just felt it was the right thing. And that was a way for me to create space. And then today we're at our place in Nova Scotia and I opened up a box and there's a brand new gorgeous Dior purse that I bought 10 years ago that I never used. I didn't even
Wow.
remember I had it. And I was like,
I love
isn't that crazy? I completely forgot I had this purse.
It's a timing.
Oh, well, you'll have to take a picture and send it to us.
I will take a picture and send it to you. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a beautiful story.
Thank you for sharing this space. Thank you for sharing your heart and your beautiful wisdom. And I always feel so light and beautiful after I talk to you. So thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank
We
you,
really
Lee.
appreciate
My
it.
first time with you, and it's extremely special.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to a power yoga class with you in Naples.
Okay, I'm holding you to that. I am. Please. Yeah.
Thank you both so much.
Yeah. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. We appreciate your support. We appreciate your love. And until next time.